Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the 24-hour Star Wars special. I'm Thunderbyrd.
I'm Barkey.
And we are EjackLive. Tonight, we're going to be talking everything Star Wars. Obviously, The Last Jedi is about to release in theaters tomorrow night. Yep. And so we wanted to do a 24-hour special where we're going to be talking about a lot of our theories about what we're going to be seeing in the series. Also revisit some of the old content from some of the old movies and talk a lot about our favorite characters and where we think they're going to be going in this new film. Obviously, there's a lot to discuss here. Barkey is actually more or less our resident expert when it comes to Star Wars. He has been dissecting the films for what, about a week maybe?
Yeah, I've watched them all for about a week, 1 through 6, and then Rogue One and obviously Force Awakens.
So he's been doing his homework. He's also read, some of the expanded universe, and he knows a lot about the Star Wars universe. So basically, a lot of what we're going to be talking about is going to be things that Barkey and I have been discussing. Which that kind of leads me into a lot of this is going to be spoiler free. If anything happens to be a spoiler, it's completely coincidence. We have been going to great lengths to stay away from spoilers in this movie.
I haven't been on Facebook for a week.
Yeah, in our personal lives and on Twitter for Ejack, even what I'm Google searching as we were researching things for this special, we have been super careful. We don't want to know anything about it. So if anything ends up being correct, it is solely from our research and personal opinions that we came to conclusions. So that is all I want to say about this. You guys are safe here, guys. Feel free to enjoy the content. We have a lot to talk about, actually. The first thing I actually want to go into with you a little bit is how Disney recently made, with the newest movie that came out, The Force Awakens, a lot of the expanded universe non-canon. So countless books, comic series. I think the first thing, and you were kind of talking to me about this a little bit, that there's a really big misconception about what's considered canon and non-canon. So to those who may not understand completely, what is considered canon in the series at this point?
So to make it, more, what am I trying to say? So to make it more, less complicated, what it pretty much is everything from the Skywalker series, episode 1 through episode 6, is all canon. Everything in there, everything discussed, everything talked about, everything shown, that's all canon. Anything outside of that was posed as non-canon so that they could create these movies without having to go off of anything that was already pre-written.
Okay. So basically anything, and you were talking about some TV shows too, so anything, in the core movie franchise.
Yeah, anything about the Skywalkers between 1 and 6. So that's the Clone Wars, which happens during right after Attack of the Clones, and then you have Rebels, which is in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
Okay, so that makes sense. Hopefully that explains it to you guys a little bit too. Like I said, some of what we're going to talk about is going to be still within the canon universe. Unfortunately, they did cut a lot of it out, and I think we're going to possibly even discuss things that maybe we feel Disney is drawing inspiration from, which kind of brings us to my first topic. So first off, I love Kylo Ren. I think he's an amazing villain, right? Disney casted Adam Driver in this role, and he is absolutely killing it, right? Obviously very conflicted. You were comparing Kylo Ren to somebody that we saw in the expanded universe. Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of where you're drawing that comparison from?
Yeah, so something I found while watching The Force Awakens was that Ben Solo really reflected Jason Solo from the expanded universe. Still Han Solo's son, trained with Luke Skywalker in the Jedi Temple, and he ended up going rogue and going to the Sith and killing everybody in the Jedi Temple, just like in The Force Awakens. There are differences, of course. Jason Solo ends up killing a Skywalker in the expanded universe, and that's what kind of turns him evil. He has some aspects. The Knights of Ren obviously aren't in the expanded universe. That's something that they added, but there are some definite overlaps in the story. So some heavy comparisons to Jason Solo. So you personally feel like there's still
they're still drawing a lot of inspiration from some of that expanded universe with Kylo Ren. But you would agree though, Kylo Ren, I mean, he's feared in the galaxy right now in his present time. He's somebody that people look as a force to be reckoned with, and yet he's not fully trained, right?
So as you described, as he's conflicted, kind of what I see it as is Episode 3, Anakin Skywalker. He's a very throughout Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. He's very emotional. You can see that as he kills the Sand People in Attack of the Clones. He talks with Padme, kind of throws a fit, and then also obviously when he has that vision of Padme dying, he gets very emotional, feels that he needs to kind of save her. And in The Force Awakens, kind of that reflection is when Kylo Ren kind of throws a fit with his lightsaber. It just kind of that comparison. He hasn't fully turned to the dark side, I haven't felt like.
So he's not fully convinced that he wants to be Snoke's minion and be under training of Snoke is kind of what we're thinking may be the case. Because at this point, they haven't really confirmed, although they've heavily hinted at the fact that Kylo Ren has spent some time with Luke. Is that right?
Correct. So Kylo Ren was under Luke's tutelage in the Jedi Temple, and that is when the Jedi Temple falls, is when Ben Solo and the Knights of Ren destroy the Jedi Temple.
Okay. So obviously, they have a lot of backstory that they still need to go through. Do you think that with The Last Jedi, they're going to explore more on Kylo Ren's origins, and we'll get to see more of those flashbacks from what happened with his time with Luke?
I think that if you watch throughout The Force Awakens, you can obviously tell that there's a lot of scenes that seem to be cut out. For example, we'll get into it later, the vision that Rey has. I think they're really going to dive into that vision. I think there's going to be a full explanation on that. I also feel like with who Rey is, there's a lot of cut scenes where they talk about who she is, and I think that's going to be explained as well. They're going to go back and show that flashback of them talking about Rey.
And I'm really excited to talk about Rey, and we're going to talk about her a lot, near a little bit later here, because again, and another just amazing character. Daisy Ridley has been killing it, but we'll get into a little bit about that later. I do want to continue talking more about Kylo Ren. So, in The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren kills Han Solo. What do you think happened there? I mean, I'm not fully convinced, in my opinion, that it was Kylo.
So there's definitely two sides to it. There's Han Solo, ignited the lightsaber because what happens is Kylo Ren asks Han Solo for help. He says, "Will you help me do this?" And I think Han knows fully well that Kylo Ren's going to kill him.
He doesn't have it in him.
No, and he sees that in Kylo Ren, sees his son in help. As you can see in The Force Awakens, he still has very strong feelings for his child. And I think he's helping him in that way to show him that, you were turned to the dark side, but I'm still your father.
Right, and that is a very pivotal point that we're yet to see the actual conclusion of. The way Disney set it up is, as of right now, it's wide open. And if he did kill Han Solo, I think that definitely solidifies his journey to go fully to the dark side. And if he didn't, that opens up a whole nother door that he still could be saved, if you will, and turned back to the right side, to the light side.
See, I kind of have to disagree with you there a little bit. So I think that if Kylo Ren did kill Han Solo, I still don't think that's the turning point for him being to the dark side. I think he is wanting that to be his turn to the dark side, and I think Snoke wants that to be. But as you can see, the feelings that Kylo Ren has as he's killing Han Solo, I don't think that's going to be it. And I think that, and we'll get into more of it later, but I think that could be Leia's death, is him. I couldn't do it. Han Solo didn't make me turn to the dark side. What if I kill my mom?
So something that we haven't really talked a lot about that I would be interested in hearing your opinion on is obviously that moment when they're on the bridge. There is a lot of animosity towards Han Solo from Kylo, and Han Solo is noticeably feeling guilty about something. I feel like maybe he's done Kylo wrong at some point. And again, they never really explain it. Do you have any theories to why that, what could have happened?
Well, if you've seen the first trilogy, 4, 5, and 6, you can obviously see that Han Solo isn't exactly best father figures you would see.
Yeah.
And he can barely hold up with Leia. I think that he feels guilty. I think he thinks that he's the reason why Kylo turned to the dark side. And with Revenge of the Sith, I mean, it was all Palpatine. I think that this time it was all Snoke. I don't think that Han Solo had anything to do with it, but that might this new movie might change my mind on that.
You know, because one of my biggest questions is, did Han Solo abandon Leia and abandon Kylo, maybe even at a young age, leaving them to fend for themselves? You know, I could definitely see that as a part of his character. You know, having a child could be something really overbearing for Han Solo, and then ultimately lead to this animosity that you see. Again, this is all speculation, but it definitely would explain why that moment was so intense for the two of them.
And as explained in The Force Awakens, once Kylo Ren once Ben Solo turns into Kylo Ren, Leia and Han split apart.
Right.
Leia turns into General Organa, and she goes off and does the whole rebellion thing, and Han Solo kind of goes off and does his thing as a scoundrel. They both kind of wanted to go and do something that they're good at, kind of get their mind off of it.
Right.
And I think you can obviously see that in their meeting up in The Force Awakens, it's really kind of odd. You would think after watching New Hope and the other two, you would think that they would have a good reunion, but it seems kind of awkward.
Yeah, it is really, it's not the most happy of reunions, to say the least. The other really interesting thing I want to talk about here with Kylo that you brought up is this obsession with Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. And it seems like he idolizes his grandfather and he idolizes Darth Vader so much, and yet he's not interested in his lightsaber. Tell me a little bit about that.
So that's where I'm really confused. So in the past movies, Anakin's lightsaber and Darth Vader's lightsaber are two separate lightsabers. Anakin loses his in the I can't think of anyway. He loses it in the lava planet, Mustafar system. That's what it's called. And Obi-Wan picks it up and gives it to Luke in the beginning of New Hope. Well, Darth Vader has his own lightsaber at that point. It's very similar, but it's not the same.
Right.
So I can't figure out why he is so interested in Anakin's lightsaber and not in finding Darth Vader's.
Right. Especially since he idolizes him so much.
Mm-hmm. And something that I've kind of wondered is in the fight with Rey, when he says that lightsaber does not belong to you, is he talking about himself?
Or why, or the better question is, why does he think it belongs to him? Is he implying that it belongs to him? Is he implying that it belongs to Luke? Is he implying that, Rey has it and it's not hers, but it chose her? There are so many questions surrounding that. And I like to draw comparisons when it comes to lightsabers, kind of like in the Harry Potter world. It almost seems like, the lightsaber is something very personal. And in Harry Potter, the lightsaber chooses you. And they almost went that route in The Force Awakens with Luke's lightsaber. Like, it was literally calling for Rey, Yeah. And you've got to wonder if that ever happened to Kylo. Or maybe if it was Luke's and he trained under him, if he feels entitled. Because, the passing down of lightsabers is also something that we've seen before, too. Mm-hmm. And maybe he feels like it's his right as his understudy to be the next in kin to receive that, more or less, right?
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
So I guess kind of final thoughts with Kylo Ren here, and then we'll move on to a different topic. What do you think we're going to see happen to Kylo Ren? What are your predictions as the trilogy continues?
So as they've already stated, this is not really spoiler. We're going to see a darker movie in The Last Jedi, and I'm hoping that's on Kylo Ren's side. because in The Force Awakens, I don't know, it seemed more towards children than it did us adults who grew up with Star Wars. And when they said that this movie's going to be more dark and suspenseful and, sad and emotional, that got me really excited.
We're hoping that comes from Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Right? We want to see, a force to be reckoned with. And Adam Driver definitely, in his more serious parts of The Force Awakens, he has the demeanor and the tone to really be a frightening villain.
Of course, in the first scene.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite scenes with Kylo Ren, because at that point you're like, this guy's awesome.
Yeah, he freezes a blaster bolt midair and just comes in and literally takes charge. He has a presence that's just unparalleled to like no degree. Like and it's something that we really didn't even see much from Darth Vader, maybe minus Rogue Squadron with the episode or with the scene that they released there, but like he really is something like we have not seen yet in this universe, which is really great. So let's move on. We've talked a lot about Kylo Ren. Obviously, Luke Skywalker. Mark Hamill's reprising his infamous role as Luke Skywalker. He has a beard now, right?
Yes.
So he's sporting the beard. I could definitely see, personally, this version of Luke Skywalker being the badass, right? He is a seasoned veteran. You could tell that he's seen things. He's walked through life, and it's, I think, been tragic. I don't think that Luke Skywalker has had a very pleasant life since we last saw him. Mm-hmm. Now, where do you think Luke has been, and why do you think he's secluded himself on a small island in the middle of nowhere?
So, kind of what my theory is, in the Battlefront 2, you kind of see what Luke does after the Death Star explodes, and you kind of see part of the island. I don't want to give any spoilers on the Battlefront 2 campaign, but you kind of see how he obtained this map. And I can't... So, kind of what Han suggested is that maybe he went to get away from everything. He felt responsible for Kylo Ren. Maybe he felt that the death of all the Jedi were his fault and that he can't save anyone. He's just doing more harm than good. I'm not sure at this point what that reason of seclusion was. I'm definitely excited to learn kind of what that was. I don't really have any theories on that, as it's very, very...
vague.
Yeah,
it's very vague.
Very vague.
And the thing is, when we last saw Luke, he was at his prime. Mm-hmm. And, boasting with confidence, one of the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy at that point that we know of that's still canon.
Yep.
And so something happened. And, with Kylo Ren not being fully trained, you could definitely get, and again, we're going to have to talk about this later because there's so much to talk about with Rey's vision.
Yep.
There was an uprising. Mm-hmm. And I think that maybe he made, this is my personal opinion, maybe he did make some big mistakes. And it is no secret, if you've seen the original 3 movies, that Luke was tempted by the dark side at some point. Mm-hmm. My big question is, is it possible that Luke had contact with Snoke before? Does he know who Snoke is? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's going to be something huge in this next movie. Snoke is a monster presence, and so is Luke. And so those two, I mean, it's almost unheard of. I mean, people could be light years away and feel the presence of a strong Force user.
Yeah.
So they have to know that each other exists somehow. Maybe did Luke dabble back in the dark side at some point? Did he play a more essential role than just Kylo Ren killing the rest of the Sith? So those are my questions that I'd like to see answered, hopefully by the end of this series. Do you think we will see Luke die in this movie?
At a percentage, I give it an 80% that he's gonna die in this movie. That's a
pretty big percentage. You're saying more than likely we're gonna see the end of Luke in this movie.
I'm pretty sure.
That would be a sad day. I hope you're wrong. Like you said, they have come out and been open that this is going to be a lot darker of a movie. Mm-hmm. So that would definitely make this pretty dark. All right, so another thing that you had brought up kind of previously was the Knights of Ren.
Before we get to that real quick, kind of I want to see when Rey first meets Luke. So you've kind of, in the story progression, you've kind of seen multiple times where when people go to secluded areas, get kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You got Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine. That dude was nuts.
Yeah, he was.
And Yoda.
Yeah, which was literally crazy in the middle of a swamp.
Yeah, literally nuts. I kind of want to see, I know they probably won't, but I kind of want to see them portray Luke as the crazy guy.
Maybe like lost his marbles a little bit. And that would be amazing to see, because if you guys didn't know, Mark Hamill has been the primary animated voice for the Joker for umpteen years now. Most of the games and cartoons are voiced by Mark Hamill. I would be ecstatic to hear a slight hint of the Joker in Mark Hamill's voice if he's crazy.
I think it's almost impossible for you not to at this point.
Yeah, I know, it's so
Even
natural.
if he talks, it's gonna happen.
And you know, I've seen interviews with him where he does talk, and naturally it just sounds like he starts talking like the Joker. And so that would be like an incredible opportunity if they do miss that. That'd be amazing. But yeah, so you know, earlier you were talking about the Knights of Ren. We want to talk, kind of explain a little bit who the Knights of Ren are and why you think they're going to be important in this trilogy.
So I don't know a lot about the Knights of Ren. There's not a lot discussed about them. You don't really have any canon material out about the Knights of Ren too much. You kind of get a sense of who they are. So they're, you know, Sith that came together to take down the Jedi Temple. Kylo Ren is the leader of the Knights of Ren, and as you get from Snoke in Force Awakens, kind of sounds like a big deal. And I don't know if they're going to be as big of a thing in The Last Jedi.
Okay.
I may be seeing towards the end if there's, you know, if I don't know what we don't know what the next movie is going to be called, but the next movie, maybe there's the Jedi Sith War, which is not what I'm hoping.
That'd be really cool.
And then you have the Knights of Ren, you have Kylo Ren, you have Snoke, then you have on the other side you have Luke, Poe, Finn, and Rey,
possibly.
And I want to see them clash. I would love to see them clash. So maybe they'll bring back the Knights of Ren. I'm not entirely sure what happened to them, if they got disbanded. We obviously know that Kylo Ren formed them to take down the Jedi Temple. Kind of speculating, I'm not sure, but I kind of speculate that they were Jedis at the Jedi Temple at the time. Okay.
So possibly, like I was talking about earlier, maybe there was a rebellion that took place. You know, and that's an interesting concept because The Last Jedi question mark. Is he the last Jedi? You know, what happened to the Knights of Ren? Because technically, we haven't seen or heard of from any of them other than a minor flashback scene, which again, we'll talk about later. And that's it. You know, so did, after they finished killing all the Jedi, did they go and, were they killed by Kylo? Maybe to tie up loose ends? Did they go into seclusion as well? You know, I guess we don't really know. You know, the other thing that it begs is, you know, is Snoke really the leader? And does he know all their whereabouts? You know, there's a lot of things that I would really be interested in seeing in this movie. I really hope they flesh out the Knights of Ren. It's a really cool concept. And I would hope that maybe there's more conflicted Jedi out there who feel guilty about what they did. Maybe they were tricked, betrayed into doing what they did. Kind of like, again, what you saw with Anakin. He wasn't necessarily this bad guy. He was brainwashed and he thought he was doing the right thing. So maybe that was the case. You know, I guess we'll have to see.
Something I really love about the title of this movie is the vagueness in the title.
Right.
So you have The Last Jedi. Jedi singular, Jedi plural.
Right.
They're the same.
Yes.
Also, they do hint at it in The Force Awakens. In the beginning credits, they do say Skywalker, comma, The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And Snoke, when speaking to Kylo Ren, says if they find the Last Jedi, he says Luke, the Last Jedi, then the new Jedi will rise.
Really? So
New
maybe
Jedi,
we'll see
multiple
or
new
singular
Jedi Rey.
Yeah, that is an interesting concept. Who knows? Maybe Rey will be a beacon of light and go out and maybe they'll search for Force users, right? Okay, so next topic. This is actually something that I'm going to talk a little bit about, which is Finn. We were rewatching The Force Awakens, and I'll get some of your feedback on this. But what's really interesting to me is the concept that maybe Finn is a double agent and doesn't know it. At the beginning of The Force Awakens, he's obviously very disturbed by the death of his comrade, and Kylo Ren makes a visual notation of him.
Yes.
When they fly back to the ship, he basically immediately tries. They capture Poe Dameron, and Kylo Ren immediately tries to interrogate him, which, to our knowledge, he got nothing out,
Oh,
right?
no,
He caused
did.
him great pain, but maybe not exactly what he was looking for.
He got the whereabouts of the map.
Right.
So he uses the Force, power. I don't know really what to call it. It's kind of like mind screwing. Let's just call it. It's mind screwing. That's what it's called. And you kind of see that power explained in Battlefront 2 at the end.
Okay.
Not to go into details on who he does it on or whatever, but he actually like goes into their mind and explores it as like an entity.
Okay.
And kind of goes through their memories, and he actually gets the whereabouts of the map, which is in the BB-8 unit.
Yes.
And that's how he finds out that it's in the BB-8 droid. So he did get kind of what he wanted. Poe hasn't obviously seen the map.
Right.
So that's pretty much all he could get out of him.
But at this point, it would be incredibly beneficial for Kylo Ren to have a man on the inside. Somebody that is working with the Republic, but reporting back to him. And I think this is where Finn comes in. There was a moment where Phasma was talking to Kylo Ren, and Kylo asks about his recalibration, and she confirms that it was successful. And what we see is this incredibly sporadic, almost like anxiety attack that was induced on him that made him make some very rash decisions very quickly to save Poe Dameron, escape from a ship which the odds of survival are very slim, and literally abandoning the people he spent his whole life with. And what's interesting is that you had pointed out the fact that Finn was missing when they went and talked to Maz. Mm-hmm. And then seconds later, the First Order is there, and they are attacking the planet, right? It begs the question, is he relaying information? Does Kylo Ren, is he using him as a tool to get to The Last Jedi?
Mm-hmm. And something that's definitely interesting is that he realizes right then and there that it was Finn.
Yeah.
As soon as they ask what stormtrooper left, he immediately says, I think it's FN 28, I don't know,
218 or whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And he knows immediately.
Yeah, he just boom, like instantly just spouts out that name.
And it kind of feels like when they're on Jakku in the beginning, when Kylo Ren looks at Finn, like he senses something.
Like he's targeting him, or that he sees something in him.
Because it's not even like he sees it in the corner of his eye. He's just walking.
He looks
just
straight
at
over at him, stares at him, and then walks away.
And as you said before, you can sense strong force in somebody. So
right.
We may potentially see
Force user Finn
come out as a Force user.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure. There's definitely more interpretation that we'll need. It's very vague there's definitely multiple reasons why you could have been staring at him. But that's kind of my thinking on it, is that
yes.
he sensed something in him. And when he flew away, he still sensed that he was gone.
Right. And, this kind of leads into our next conversation, which is Phasma, right? Mm-hmm. Again, another amazing character. Not really, we don't see much of Phasma in this last movie, in The Force Awakens, but I do think we're going to see a lot of Phasma in the new movie. And the reason I say that is because she played a pretty key role in the first trailer, full official trailer that came out. You saw Ren and Phasma fighting. Mm-hmm. That kind of plays a little bit into maybe my personal theory about Finn being a double agent. I personally think that Finn he's maybe programmed right now to be a double agent and report back, but then his own human emotion is going to override that. Mm-hmm. And then he's going to stop reporting back, and then Phasma is going to be mad. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to see the two clash. Now, I don't know if that's your take on it. What do you think we're going to see from Phasma?
So, kind of what I've seen or kind of thought was that Phasma's the double agent. You don't really get that sense that Phasma's really dedicated to the First Order. When she when she brings Finn back and they do the whole result, and she looks at his results and everything, could she have let stuff slide?
Right,
knowing
just
that
turn
he
a blind
would leave
eye.
and take Poe.
Right.
Something else that kind of really jumped at me as Phasma is the double agent is when they are turning off the shields to the planet Death Star thing, whatever that's called.
Star Killer.
Yeah, Star Killer.
Yeah.
She's the one that deactivates the shields. She says you're making a very big mistake.
Right.
Now that could be, you're making a big mistake by betraying us. We're gonna rule the empire. We're gonna rule the galaxy. Or that could be you're making a big mistake. I had a plan.
Right. Like, I got this. You're gonna expose me. You're ruining what I'm working on. That, and I could agree. That is another really possible storyline that we could be. So they cast a pretty big actress in Phasma's role. So Gwendolyn Christie is playing Phasma, and she's huge right now on Game of Thrones. I failed to believe that they would cast such a huge actor right now in a role that's going to have such a minor part in the series. I think that we're going to end up seeing Phasma be a very large part moving forward in some way. Even if it ends in this movie, we're going to see a lot of Phasma. I think we're going to see it soon.
Yeah, definitely watch some training videos of kind of what they went through for training with these movies. And Phasma's done a lot of combat training. She's kind of stated this is the hardest thing she's ever had to do. You've seen Game of Thrones.
Yes.
I've seen Game of Thrones. That did not look easy.
Yeah, it did not, in full armor and everything. So yeah, I mean, we'll probably see a lot more battles. Maybe she'll be leading the charge. Obviously in the trailer we saw, I don't know, I don't recall ever seeing this planet before in the Star Wars universe. If you guys know, you could leave it in the comments for people that are watching. But there's a huge battle that takes place on this new maybe desert planet. There's some mountains in the background. Maybe she's leading the charge. Maybe she is going to be in these battles, and maybe fighting these battles is like the key motivating factor for the First Order. Maybe we could see her be a double agent. There's so much with that character. What The Force Awakens did very well was introduce us to a large number of very interesting characters, but we're super vague with all of them. So I was captivated by pretty much every character in that movie, without knowing very much about who they were. So I think they did a very good job with that. Again, Phasma's one of those characters.
So clarifying that planet you were talking about, the desert with the mountains, that's Jakku?
Is it Jakku?
Which one are you talking about?
So the one where they're flying in on the ships in the Last Jedi, and then they scrape the bottom sand, and then the red shows up. And it's going to be the DLC map, I believe, or story arc.
For Battlefront 2.
For Battlefront 2. By the way, in case you guys didn't know, Battlefront 2 is... that story is actually considered canon. Now, right now, I personally am not going to recommend going out and buying Battlefront 2 for personal reasons. Obviously, there's been a lot of controversy around that game. But I will say, go out and support a local video company. Here where we're at, there's Family Video. I know that that's in other states. And I have talked to them and confirmed that the profits from the game that you rent don't go towards the developer. They actually go towards the video rental place. So maybe go and pick it up at a video rental store, play through the campaign. It is all canon.
Or if you YouTube a lot, or support Twitch, support YouTube, go on there.
Yes.
If you don't want to play it, you just like to see the story. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't feel like playing Battlefront 2. Wasn't a big fan of the first one. So I didn't want to pay the $60 to play a campaign, which, if you didn't know, is only 4 hours long. It's not a full campaign. Almost seems like a DLC campaign. Right. So I found it more interesting to watch it than to play it.
Yes. So the next big thing, and I'm super excited about this. So for one, Andy Serkis has got to be a master at this point, probably the greatest that will ever be for a long time in motion capture. Yeah. And he's playing Snoke, right? So I was super excited about that. Obviously, Andy Serkis is going to be reprising his motion caption work with Snoke again in The Last Jedi. We don't know a lot about Snoke either. Yeah. It's a big blanket theory. The only thing I can say is that he's not a 900-foot tall hologram. Some people that I watched it with initially asked, why is he so large? And I said that's a hologram and he's not 900 feet tall. So what is Snoke's goal? Why is he here? Is he playing kind of like an emperor role? Is he what is he, do you think?
So his his objective isn't really explained in The Force Awakens. The only thing that we know is he wants to find Luke to stop him from bringing an uprise of a Jedi, or bring an uprise of the Jedi, singular or plural, and that, he's kind of in tutelage with Kylo Ren. We've seen that multiple times. Kylo Ren has failed in his tasks, but Snoke hasn't really given up on him, which is interesting. As a Sith Lord and studying other Sith Lords,
right?
That's not really accepted,
right?
You usually just die. It's usually how it goes.
Yeah, and so I guess this begs the question. Obviously, Snoke could just be a random new baddie. Mm-hmm. But as George Lucas has said, and I might want to talk about this a little bit more later, that the Star Wars saga mirrors itself.
Yep.
Right? If we were to look at all the films, 1 through 7, talk a little bit, because I know you've discussed this with me quite a bit, about who you think potentially Snoke could be, and how some of the earlier movies may be influencing what we're seeing.
Yeah, so kind of to be honest, my number one thought is Snoke is simply Snoke. I don't think he's going to be anybody from the prequels or the first trilogy. I think he's just a new character. But if they don't go that route, my second guess would be Darth Plagueis. Now, some of the reasons people say that's false is because Darth Plagueis had his own book in the EU, so yes. They think non-canon. But like I said in the beginning of the video, everything described, shown, explained is canon in the movies. In the Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine tells Anakin about Plagueis, his master,
yes.
About how he was able to create life, how he was able to cheat death. The only thing that was stopping him was he couldn't cheat his own death. So Palpatine knows. Palpatine
yes.
was never able to successfully do anything that Plagueis did. Plagueis taught him everything, but Palpatine never completed his training. He killed Plagueis in his sleep before his training was complete.
Right.
I think because he was scared that Plagueis was going to become immortal, he wasn't going to be able to do it. Therefore, he would never succeed in becoming an emperor. I do think that Darth Plagueis found a way to cheat death. He could come back. If you look at photos of him, they have quite a bit of resemblance in each other. It's never told how he was killed, and that could explain the scars. The only reason I think that is a very, very false is the much explaining they would have to do to make that a thing. A lot of people don't know who Darth Plagueis is.
Right.
It's very minimally explained in Revenge of the Sith, and I would very highly doubt that Disney would bring back anybody not huge in the first 6 movies.
Right. So, I mean, and he was very briefly mentioned. His name was only mentioned like once or twice, and literally maybe like a 2-minute section.
Yeah.
Like if you were to narrow it down, it was Palpatine was explaining to Anakin basically, trying to convince him of why the dark side is so compelling.
Mm-hmm. He knew about Padme and that Padme was going to die. So he knew that Anakin would be compelled to turn to the dark side if he knew that there was a way to save her.
Possibly, right?
Yeah, possibly save her. Anakin said in Attack of the Clones that he would never let someone die again. And I think because him and Palpatine became such good friends in Revenge of the Sith, I think maybe he let that slip, or Palpatine sensed that in him.
Right.
Because Anakin did tell Palpatine about what happened in Attack of the Clones. And I think that's how we got to him.
Yeah. And that would make sense. I do agree, though, that I feel like Snoke is a brand new character. You don't necessarily need a tie-in to everything, right? It doesn't have to tie in to the movies or the TV shows and the game. It just doesn't. Maybe it's just a fresh, character to mix things up. And again, Andy Serkis is amazing, so they obviously They took a lot of thought when casting and creating this character, and Disney has done some really good work. Look at what they've done with the Marvel movies, the Avengers universe. I'm more than confident that they could create a compelling new character at this point.
Yeah, definitely.
So, all right, so moving forward, this is just something fun that I want to talk about. Okay, let's take a second and discuss Porgs. The cute little penguin hamster things that you see Chewie riding around with. Okay, my first opinion, even just from the 2 seconds you see him in the trailer and all the little toys you see out, I think they're adorable. I don't think they're going to be annoying. I think that, again, Disney might have a very good grasp on what is bad after looking back and seeing what they did with, like, Jar Jar Binks and countless other things. I think that they are going to be a very likable new addition to the Star Wars universe.
I believe as long as they are used in moderation. This is supposed to be a very dark, emotional movie. I understand that they need to, you know, tender their audience to children as well, and I think that's their introduction to Porg.
Yes.
Just like BB-8 was the introduction to Force Awakens, and that was, you know, now the new big child's toy.
Yeah.
Was BB-8, and now, I mean, shoot, the movie hasn't even came out. I've seen Porgs everywhere.
Yeah.
Porgs are literally on sale
They're everywhere. And you know what? Speaking of BB-8, I do want to throw this out. Awesome job on Disney's part.
Yes.
Probably, literally, my favorite droid. I love BB-8. I like how he works and I like how he operates. It's so close to real life that they are physically able to make him now. You could go buy basically a BB-8 and have it roll around your house and follow you, which I found at a specific toy store in our area, and I'm almost considering buying because I do have the money for it, and there'd be no use for it. I just want to have one follow me around. But I would agree. Use sparingly. You know, they are going to have to kind of light. If it's a dark movie, you don't want a movie to be dark 100%. They're going to have to lighten the mood. They're going to have to add in some comedy to break it up, because otherwise you're going to go watch it and you're going to be depressed. Yeah. You know, nobody wants to go see a movie that's going to be depressing the whole time. Yeah. So I think Porgs will have a lot of like funny screaming moments, or, you know, like the BB-8 when he flicks out his lighter, that one, you know, yeah.
I think it's, as long as it's used in moderation, like BB-8, I do think BB-8 was used very well. I would very much disagree that he is the best droid. R2-D2 would destroy him. He has a little lighter. And R2-D2 has flamethrowers.
I think in terms of character design, though, and he's personality-wise, if you want to put it that way, the personality of the droids, like C-3PO has his own personality, R2-D2. I like BB-8's personality. He's very sarcastic, and he definitely uses a lot of comedy at this point.
R2-D2 just doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He's strictly, you know, a service, like he's on task all the time. Yeah. You know, don't stop R2-D2 from completing his mission.
Exactly.
He'll, you know, at all costs. You know, we see Porg, Porgs or Porg. I don't know what its name is yet, like the individual one. Yeah. But in the trailer that came out, we see him with Chewie and the Millennium Falcon. Right, so maybe those two are going to develop a special bond, which may be what Chewie needs at this point. So let's not forget about the fact that his lifelong friend, Chewie's best friend and companion, just died. Yeah. I think that we're going to see a human side to Chewie in this next movie. I think he's going to be angry. I think he's going to be depressed. I think that this new Porg is going to help bring him maybe some companionship that he may be needing. Mm-hmm. You know, Chewie really has more been there for comic relief in the past, and I think that he is going to play more on our heartstrings as this next movie goes on, to remind us that such a key character died.
Yeah, I would be very, very upset if Chewbacca still was comedic through this movie. Yeah. I think maybe towards the end, maybe. I'm hoping not. Because, I mean, even after the Death Star blew up, after Kylo Ren, Chewbacca and Han Solo have always been together. They've been a pair.
Yes,
they've been best friends forever.
Yep. Through thick and thin.
Losing that it's got to be devastating. I would be very upset if we did not see any ripple effect from Han Solo's death and Chewbacca.
Absolutely. And now, do you think Chewie is going to find companionship with any of our new characters?
The Porg, it's gonna be, Chewbacca. He cares, but he has emotions. But at some points he doesn't care at all. Like when you try and beat him in a game, it's just how Wookiees are. And you see in the trailer, the Porg is on the dashboard screaming, and Chewbacca just kind of throws him off. And that's going to be part of the comedic effect I think we're going to see. Maybe the Porg just gets on Chewbacca's nerves.
Maybe it's his pet.
Maybe that's the comedic part of it, is that the Porg just kind of irritates Chewbacca. And I could see that being very comedic, especially if he's kind of in depression mode. Maybe that confrontation, or I can't use a good word for it, dilemma or whatever, kind of takes his mind off of it.
Do you think he'll get a new human companion? Do you think he'll find human companionship in any of our new characters?
We'll kind of get into it later, but I think Rey could potentially be a
candidate.
Yes. In The Force Awakens, Han says that Chewie really likes Rey.
Yeah.
He just specifically says it once they get on the planet with Maz on it.
Okay. All right. So R2-D2, C-3PO,
BB-8.
BB-8. I want to talk a little bit about them. I don't think that we're going to see any huge character development with these three. I think they are going to be present. I think they're going to play more of a minor role. Again, more as a throwback for those older fans who love seeing them so much. I don't really see them having any important, large tasks or roles to complete in this movie.
They really haven't. I definitely do not want to see that in the droids. Maybe a little more...
R2-D2 maybe.
I don't...
With Luke, because think about the vision. If they go more into the vision, which again we're going to talk about, maybe we could see more with R2.
I definitely hope that the droids kind of stay back like they have. Would I be super upset if I saw more of R2-D2 or kind of him being in the story? No. Him being more important? No. If he's more important than other characters like Chewbacca, then I'll be a little more upset.
I would be too.
I would like Chewie to have a little more importance into the story than he has in the previous movies, but I definitely don't want to see him become a main character.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%. I think there's a lot of things that are going on, and it would be hard for them to play a key role. In this next movie, at least, in The Last Jedi, there's going to be way too many more important things happening.
So,
now,
real quick, kind of what you see is Poe's not really in The Force Awakens. You have Finn, Rey, Chewbacca, and
Han Solo.
Han Solo.
Yeah.
That's the four. There's always been four. You had Chewie, Han, Luke, and Leia.
Right.
I really hope that now that Han is gone, Poe is going to take that place, and that's how we're going to get to see more of Poe and know more of who Poe is, as he takes the place as the four.
Do you think Poe will take over captain of the Millennium Falcon? Do you think that is a possibility?
I hope that the Millennium Falcon gets transferred to Chewbacca. I don't know. Maybe it gets transferred to Rey. And we'll kind of get more into that later. But there is a lot of
speculation yet to be made.
She has a lot of. I don't want to say this without getting into it too much. She
has a lot of potential to be a candidate.
Yes.
Okay.
I would agree.
So I want to take a moment for one to talk about the fact that this is going to be an emotional movie solely because this was Carrie Fisher's last role. It was her biggest role before that she has played when she did the original trilogy. And what I think is almost poetic is that this movie was her last one. Mm-hmm. I do feel like that Disney is going to do a great deal of justice to honor that. And I think it is going to be very emotional to see Carrie Fisher on screen.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, that is going to create quite the dilemma for Disney. And I want to say that they did have to do some rewrites to the script. I can't confirm 100%, but I do remember after she passed this year, that there was some speculation on if Disney was going to be rewriting anything, and I don't know if they actually did. Are we going to see Leia's death, in your opinion?
I definitely think that she will die. As we see in the trailer, you kind of have that scene with Kylo Ren in his, I'm going to guess a TIE fighter is what they usually use. I hope it's a TIE fighter. I'd be really upset. And he's looks very emotional.
Yes.
And you get
distressed.
you get that very big close up of Carrie Fisher,
right.
Leia, and she kind of looks emotional, and that's people are now speculating. Well, yeah, Kylo Ren's gonna kill Leia, but would you really put something like that in the trailer? I don't think that's how it's going to actually happen.
But maybe they're foreshadowing it.
Yes. I do think that Leia will die in this movie. I honestly don't think it'll be by the hands of Kylo Ren.
If I had to take a guess, if we see Snoke in person in this movie, I believe that she will die at his hands. The only other option is I think that she will go down with the resistance, with the rebels.
Yes.
I think that maybe the other possibility is a rebel base gets attacked, especially after blowing up Starkiller base. There could be some repercussions that come down the tube and some consequences for doing that. The biggest repercussion would be seeing the rebel base destroyed, maybe with her in it.
Yeah.
And that would be extremely tragic. Like I said, Carrie Fisher, with her real passing, I think it's going to be a very emotional moment if she does pass away in Screen 2. It was hard for me. I'm not even going to lie. Seeing Han Solo died, I teared up. Like that was incredibly hard for me to see in real life. So I think that it is going to, again, pull at our heartstrings a little bit, no matter what they do. Yeah. Because I don't foresee them. Now, you said that there was a character in Rogue One that they digitally CGI'd in.
Yes.
Who was that?
That was General Tusk.
Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think it's General Tusk. From the New Hope, they CGI'd him in. It was very, very, very obvious.
Yes.
And I'm hoping they don't, like we've discussed before, I hope they don't do that with Plagueis. Kind of respond with you earlier, you hope that we'd see Plagueis in person. We will.
Plagueis, Snoke.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I was like, we're going to see Plagueis. Whoa.
No, we're gonna see Snoke. In the trailer, it does show Snoke in the background using some sort of force...
power.
Yeah, some sort of force power on Rey. She's suspended, completely on her back in midair, screaming. So I think we're gonna see Snoke in person. Now, how soon we'll get to see him is kind of
up in the air.
I think it's gonna be more towards the end, and then in the next movie we're gonna see a lot of Snoke in real life.
Because here's the reality of the situation: is Snoke is going to be incredibly mad at what happened to Starkiller Base.
Yes.
And very disappointed with Kylo Ren. Mm-hmm. Not only did he allow the destruction of Starkiller Base, he also let Rey get away.
Someone who's never used the Force.
Yes.
Never been trained.
Never
touched a lightsaber before. Beat the leader of the Knights of Ren.
He is definitely, I think, going to have to take matters into his own hands at this point.
Yeah.
And this is where I think we're going to see a very dark tone, because I have a feeling that Snoke, as laid back and mellow as he was in The Force Awakens, I think he has the potential to have quite the temper.
Yes.
Right. So
kind of move on here. There is something I want to quickly talk about. There's not a lot to talk about. Just kind of want to mention it, and I don't want to give out spoilers in case someone doesn't want to know this.
Sure.
But they have created a new base for The Last Jedi. Not saying what that base is. We've kind of talked about it before. Showed you a picture of it. And it's different. It's not the same as The Empire Strikes Back. They don't make a second Death Star. They don't make a second. What was the? I don't know what the world's called. The world machine that they use.
The world machine. I don't know.
That they blew up in The Force Awakens.
Oh, the Starkiller base?
Starkiller base.
Yeah, okay.
So,
we won't see Starkiller base 2.
No, they've changed it to something else. I don't know how I feel about it. It seems kind of cool. It also seems kind of weird at the same time.
Yeah, I would agree.
But I'm kind of excited to see where they go with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's new and it's different. You know, they're pressing forward. We want the movies to mirror, but we don't want them to mirror 100%. So that is good.
The Force Awakens was literally A New Hope.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so last topic, probably one of the biggest ones.
Yep, we've been talking about this for a while.
We're going to talk about Rey.
Yep.
All right, so we have Daisy Ridley, out of nowhere actor. Amazing, in my opinion.
Yep.
Again, we watched some of the training videos for Adam Driver, Gwendolyn Christie, and Daisy Ridley as they were preparing, and she looks awesome.
Yes.
Looks like she's definitely gone through some combat training. I guess the first thing that we want to talk about here is, how do you think, going back to The Force Awakens, how do you think she ended up on Jakku?
So I kind of have two sides of what I think happened. How kind of the reason I can explain she got on Jakku is that if she's Han Solo's daughter, which I think there's a chance, I'm 50-50 at this point. If she's Han Solo's daughter, then it seems the ship had been traded. It was traded between three people: Duquesne, I don't remember the last name, and then the ration guy on Jakku.
Right.
And then she stole it from that guy.
Which we see a little bit in the vision that she has.
Yes.
Yes.
She sees
The Force Awakens.
a ship fly away.
Yes.
So what I'm thinking is, if she's Han Solo's daughter, when the Duquesne stole the ship, she was on the ship. And then as it's gotten traded, she was traded as a slave, too young to know what was happening, to know that she was a slave. And kind of the only memory that we know of that she has, the earliest memory, is her, family or someone leaving Jakku.
Right.
And she could have been grown up thinking that person who stole the ship was her father.
Right.
So I think that could definitely be, because she seems to know the Millennium Falcon very, very well. She surprises Han Solo a lot in the ship at the very beginning.
Yeah, her skills, she was repairing it. She knew.
She bypassed a compressor, which is a very huge thing.
That's very specific, know.
So I think that she spent a lot of time on the Millennium Falcon as a child, and it's just like kind of riding a bicycle. Just kind of comes back to you. She flies the Millennium Falcon really, really, really well.
Yep,
she does the signature backflip move that we seen in all of A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and The Return of the Jedi. See that move? That's the signature move of the Millennium Falcon.
Yes.
So I definitely think that there's some Solo in her.
Yes.
That's kind of how I think she got on Jakku, if she's Han Solo's daughter.
So let's talk a little bit about where she came from. So, we talked about maybe as a Force user, she, as a child, was training with Luke.
Yes. That's kind of, I think the other part that I think is she may be Obi-Wan Kenobi's granddaughter. The first Force power that she uses is Force Persuade, which is the signature move of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I think that maybe she trained with Luke at the Jedi Academy, and she may be the only Jedi that survived the Jedi Academy. I can kind of go into more of that in the vision that she has as well. I kind of have some background knowledge in that. And then when it happened, then he took her to Jakku to keep her secluded. It's always been, we take the person that's in danger and we put him on a desert planet. Yeah,
pretty much, right? Let's talk a little bit about it. I think it's time to finally talk about Rey's vision. And you did some interesting research. You actually watched The Force Awakens with captions on, closed captioning. So it told you who was speaking, and you watched that part multiple times.
Yes.
Tell me and everybody what we actually saw as that unfolded.
So in the vision, it kind of opens up in kind of a dark tunnel, and lights start flickering on, and then you kind of start hearing some screams, and you hear Yoda kind of say some signature things that he said in the last in 5 and 6 of Star Wars. A lot of iconic sayings that are from the past. And then it kind of moves, I don't know exactly the order, but then it moves into she's at the Jedi Temple. Looks like she's kind of laying down feared. She sees Kylo Ren and the others. I don't know if there's either 6 or 5 other Knights of Ren there destroying the Jedi Temple. And kind of what my thinking on that is that she was there.
Yeah.
I think that it's a flash from the past. I think she was there as a child. She didn't remember as a child, if she's Obi-Wan's daughter, that she was actually there.
And that's a very traumatic thing for a child to go through. It could be that she has mentally blocked out her childhood and doesn't remember it because it was such a traumatic event for her to experience, right?
Yep. And then we kind of move into her being on Jakku and the ration trader kind of grabbing her by the arm, and then we see a ship fly into a red kind of ship port. Kind of makes me think the First Order, because it is red. You can't actually see the ship at all.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. You just kind of see the ship port on there. And that's kind of all we get from kind of that part of it. What really makes me think that she's Obi-Wan's daughter is all of the visions that she has are of the past.
Right.
Every vision that she has during that vision is of the past, and we actually hear Obi-Wan speak twice. He calls out Rey in a question mark as he's just now noticing that
it is her,
or that she's kind of tapped into, or she's kind of tapped into the Force now. She's awakened.
Right.
And he also says, "These are your first steps."
Yes.
Which could mean that she's finally awakened, and that's her father calling out to her.
Could be, yeah, like, hey, these are your first steps of finding out who you truly are, what you're supposed to be. It also could just be, as more of a mentor figure, like he was to so many other people through his lifespan, that maybe he is, as a Force ghost, telling her that she is about to take her first steps as a true Force user, so it could have either meaning, it could have both meanings, maybe it's double meaning. We really don't know. That was a really powerful moment, not to mention that we see Luke during that, reach out his hand and touch R2-D2. It looks like there's maybe like he was just defeated, maybe right after the Jedi were attacked. It's kind of hard to say. I think that was maybe right before he sent R2 away and secluded himself. I definitely think that she was training. Like you said, it's very apparent that she has some knowledge of how to tap into the Force, because even initially when Kylo Ren is trying to interrogate her, he finds out very quick that the tricks that he used on Poe Dameron and everybody else does not work on Rey.
Yeah.
That she is able to push back and hold her ground against somebody who has at least somewhat trained in the Force. Right? So it's definitely going to be very interesting to figure that out. And speaking of Kylo Ren, I do want to talk about the fact that when you rewatch those movies, how apparent it is that Kylo Ren, he knows Rey.
Yeah, it's very apparent when she leaves Jakku. Soldier comes in, kind of tells Kylo that Poe got away, or Finn got away, and that he left with a girl. So when he tells him that Finn got away with the BB-8 droid, that's when we see his first tantrum. And then after that, he says, "Anything else?" And the soldier says, "There was a girl."
Right.
And he acts very rational on that, like, you done screwed up.
Doesn't he ask what girl?
Yes.
He's like, what girl? Like he's like somebody essential could be on Jakku. Like they better not have left.
Yep.
I
definitely think that's something that's interesting that I just kind of came up as we've been talking. The theory is that in her visions, what if Rey was at those places in her past? So when the lights flicker, that could be a First Order ship.
Yes.
When she's when she's at the Jedi Temple, she could have been there as well as a child. She gets then taken, and that could be in sequencing order. It would be very easy for them to go back and fill it in if that was in sequencing order on kind of how it happened.
So what you're suggesting is that maybe these aren't visions, maybe they're flashbacks.
Yeah.
Actual flashbacks. Like, she was with Luke and R2-D2 after the destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she was there when Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren were there after they killed everybody. Maybe they were going to try and kill her or take her and do something with her, you know. So, and that does make sense because it shows it in a first person point of view.
Yeah,
almost.
She's always somebody until she's looking down on herself in Jakku.
Yeah. So that is very interesting. It's a pretty cool concept that you came up with. Again, there was so much to discuss as Rey's parents, and you know it would make sense that she was with Luke, that she was Leia's daughter. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously, if your brother is this Jedi master and you have Force sensitive children, that's going to be the immediate place that you're going to want them to go to be successful and not turn to the dark side. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that, you know, to tie it up, is there anything else you want to discuss with this in general? Any other last theories that you want to throw out or things to discuss?
So kind of as you said, the movies mirror themselves. Kind of what I realized in watching The Force Awakens again is in the final battle between Rey and Kylo Ren, it almost mirrors the fight between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker in Revenge of the Sith. Anakin being Kylo Ren, turning to the dark side and fighting a Jedi who is Obi-Wan, and Skywalker could be Kenobi, and that's the mirror of that battle.
Do you think that we're also going to see the mirror of... Do you think Rey is going to struggle with the dark side at any point?
I definitely think so. I think she's going to kind of dabble in the dark side a little bit. Kind of in the trailer, it shows that maybe that's what she's doing. She sees some of the light in the dark. Kind of see Luke Skywalker freaking out a bit. I think that it's always been the main character tempted to the dark side. I almost definitely think we're going to be seeing that.
So and then one last thing that I want to ask you, for the series as a whole, do you think that they will end dark and light side? Mace Windu, big part played by Samuel L. Jackson, mm-hmm. and the prequels, the actual for 1, 2, and 3, balance the Force. That's why he has a purple lightsaber. It signifies that he can use both dark and light side. Mm-hmm. Do you think that maybe with the implication of The Last Jedi, maybe we're going to see some deaths of some key people that are extremely light and extremely dark side? Do you think that maybe Disney's going to try for the future to balance the Force?
I think that this is supposed to be the end of the Skywalker series. We're definitely gonna see an ending. If they ever want to make anything after, it's really gonna be hard to come back from. Hey everyone, we're in the balance,
right? And
now we're out,
right?
So, if they plan on making any future movies, I definitely don't think they're gonna do that. If they say this is gonna be it, and this is technically the end of the Star Wars, we'll have more from earlier times. This is the end of the Star Wars. I could see that, considering the prophecy is supposed, the all-going prophecy is supposed, there's a prophet to bring balance
to the Force,
to the galaxy.
Yeah.
I think now maybe Luke Skywalker wasn't the prophet, because as we've seen, there isn't balance to the galaxy.
Right.
So,
do you think that maybe this prophecy is a ongoing long prophecy that we've been seeing kind of drawn out to be fulfilled maybe by the end of this trilogy?
I definitely hope so.
Yeah.
Because the prophecy is kind of always.
It's always been the overarching theme.
And I really hope that I really hope it's not done.
Yeah.
And maybe Kylo Ren's the prophet, because he is a Skywalker, and Skywalker's blood's kind of supposed to be the prophet blood. Maybe it's Rey.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess we'll have to see. Guys, Star Wars The Last Jedi comes out tomorrow. If you're watching this tomorrow, so on the 14th, it actually comes out today. Make sure to check it out in theaters. Show your support for the series, guys. We appreciate you tuning in with us. Again, this is going to be being streamed for the next 24 hours. Tell your friends, tell your family members, tell your coworkers to come check it out. We would like to hear what you guys think. Obviously, we're going to wait to read a lot of the comments until after we've seen the movie, which we're going to be seeing it on Thursday in IMAX, which we're super excited about. It's only being shown in 11 theaters worldwide in IMAX. Just so happens there is one in our local area. We're going to be the first people in our area seeing it in IMAX. And then we'll probably read some of those afterwards. We also plan on doing a spoiler-free and then eventually a spoiler review of The Last Jedi, letting you guys know how it was, because I have a feeling a lot of you are going to want to know how our theories panned out and what we think about what actually happened. We have a lot of content, guys. We do a lot more than just this. So if you like what you saw, make sure to follow us on Twitch. We stream Monday through Friday. Barkey and I alternate nights. We'd like to see you guys come back and hang out with us some more. You could also follow us on both Facebook and Twitter. All you have to do is search EjackLive, and then it'll take you right to our pages so you can see what we're up to when we're not live streaming. I'm Thunderbyrd.
I'm Barkey.
And we'll see you guys later.
Peace out, bros.